Now at 5, area health officials give tips on getting the most accurate results with at-home COVID tests. Plus, why a Pittsburgh testing site is dealing with delays releasing test results.
The U.S. sends military aid to Ukraine as tensions escalate along the border with Russia. I'm Natalie Brand in Washington with the options the Biden administration is now considering.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Now that people can order at-home COVID-19 tests from the government or buy them from stores, health experts have tips to get the most accurate results. This is KOAM News at 5. When receiving these tests, they say it's important to read the instructions thoroughly and follow them. Jessica Liberty at Freeman says a crucial step is the way you collect your specimen.
I mean, you want to swish it around, touch all of your nostril hairs. It's going to itch. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to make your eyes water. That means that you're collecting it appropriately. And you're going to do that in both of your nostrils. And we want it to be damp and wet with some of your discharge, because that means that there's going to be some type of specimen on that tip.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear more about effective ways to use an at-home COVID test and hear from someone who recently recovered from COVID-19 who has some advice for anyone wanting to use an at-home test. A new free COVID testing site in Pittsburgh is already experiencing delays in sending out results. The Seeds of Hope testing site opened today. Officials say the lab that processes the results is dealing with a backlog of tests and a snowstorm, so there have been delays getting the results. Still, Seeds of Hope says their site helps reduce the strain on hospitals.
Trying to help alleviate the spread of infection. So instead of going into the hospital, you're more than welcome to come here, stay in your car, and we could test you, so where then others aren't getting infected if you feel that you might be infected with COVID.
Seeds of Hope does only PCR testing. While it is free, starting on Wednesday, the site will require a copy of your insurance card if you have one. Checking in with Doug Heading. Not a bad way to start the work week, Doug.
No, today's been a fantastic day. Temperatures great into the 60s for afternoon highs. We've had partly sunny skies, so much warmer than what we have seen over the past couple days. We do have a few clouds which are sneaking through, and unfortunately, a cold front as well has kind of snuck through over the past couple hours. This is not an Arctic front, it's a polar front. It's polar Canadian air, but look at the colder air. It's 14 in Des Moines, Kansas City's down to 43, Joplin sitting at 55. So this colder air is going to sink south as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight. Slowly, we're going to drop back through the 40s, and then once we get to about midnight, we're going to be into the 30s, but eventually, by morning, I think most of us are going to be near 20 degrees, so turning quite a bit colder the next few days. We're going to break that down for you here in just a bit.
Catch them in. President Biden is meeting virtually with European allies today amid rising tension in Ukraine as Russian troops remain poised to potentially invade. Reporter Natalie Brand has the latest from Washington.
President Biden returned to the White House Monday ahead of a video call with European leaders to discuss Russia's military buildup on Ukraine's border. The Biden administration is considering sending several thousand U.S. troops and equipment to reinforce the eastern flank of NATO.
The number of forces that the Secretary has placed on heightened alert comes up to about 8,500 personnel.
In Kyiv, the State Department has ordered the families of American diplomats to leave the country. They've advised private U.S. citizens to do the same, along with non-essential American embassy personnel. Additional resources in the form of $200 million of emergency military assistance from the United States has already started arriving in Ukraine. Another shipment of military equipment is expected Tuesday.
We've never ruled out the option of providing additional assistance in advance of an invasion. Those discussions have been ongoing.
Russia released new video Monday showing military exercises near the border. Roughly 100,000 Russian troops are deployed on 3 sides of Ukraine, even as Russia denies that it's preparing to invade. In a village in Ukraine along the front lines, residents like this woman hope for peace, as Putin demands assurances that Ukraine will never be allowed to join NATO, a demand the U.S. and NATO call a non-starter. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
NATO today outlined a series of potential troop and ship deployments in the region. Chinese authorities are racing to test millions of COVID-19, test them for it as U.S. athletes and others around the world are starting to arrive for the Winter Olympics, which kick off in just days. Athletes, journalists, and other key workers will be living in a tightly controlled bubble. Anyone entering the bubble must be fully vaccinated or face 21 days in quarantine. Like last summer's games in Tokyo, fans will be banned from events. Fire crews are starting to get a handle on an unusual and dangerous wildfire burning near Big Sur in Northern California. As of this morning, the fire had burned 700 acres and was 35% contained. While the cause is still unknown, wind gusts of up to 50 miles an hour and dead vegetation have been feeding the flames. Cal Fire officials say it's unusual to have a wildfire on the coast this time of year. And despite months of record-breaking rain and snow, the National Weather Service describes the fast-moving fire as surreal. Still ahead, it's officially tax season.
Tax filing season starts today, but the IRS is warning of possible delays. I'm Michael George with expert tips on how to get your refund quickly.
And next in Health Watch, as people hit the slopes, it's important to remember the risks of winter sports.
Dear
Topping today's Health Watch, new research at Rutgers University finds people with moderate or greater symptoms of depression were more likely to believe at least 1 in 4 false statements about COVID-19 vaccines, and those who believed the statements were half as likely to be vaccinated. The symptoms of moderate depression can include little interest in doing things, trouble sleeping or concentrating, and feeling bad about yourself. Yeah, sure, it's a nice day today, but January and February can also be the time for winter fun, from hitting the slopes for skiing or snowboarding to hitting the hills to go sledding. Thousands of people are injured in these popular winter activities every year. Well, now a new national poll suggests parents may not always consider the risks. Reporter Wendy Gillette has more.
20-year-old Bailey Knight's life changed in an instant 11 years ago. She was sledding on a hill and slammed into a pole.
I was terrified. I tried to open my eyes to look around. It was hard to see her because her nose was completely crushed.
9-year-old Bailey suffered a crushed nose, fractured cheekbones, eye orbit fractures, a skull fracture, and tears in the lining of her brain. She required a nearly 19-hour surgery at C.S. Mott Children's Hospital.
If I could help a parent not to have to go through what I have gone through, check your surroundings before you sled.
A new poll suggests parents may not consider the risks of common winter activities. Only 75% said their child wears a helmet skiing or snowboarding. For sledding, 31% said their child wears a helmet always or sometimes.
Wearing a helmet when sledding really isn't the norm yet, even though there are some experts that recommend helmets.
The poll also found parents were less likely to talk to children about sledding safety compared to other activities.
Making sure the hill doesn't end abruptly in the street, because you need that runoff area to be able to slow down. Kids need to be taught and then reminded multiple times about how we do this safely.
Bailey had 5 surgeries in 6 years. She suffers with migraines and PTSD from the accident.
I think it is good to hear other people talk about it, because you just don't think that it will ever happen to you. I'm just so proud of her and where she's come.
They hope sharing their story helps other families stay safe. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
Researchers remind that very young children need to be supervised by an adult at all times during winter sports activities. We all know exercise is good for us, but did you know just 10 minutes a day does a body good? Just 10 minutes. The medical journal JAMA International Medicine published a study on the impact of modest daily physical activity. The study looked at the physical activity of more than 4,800 adults between ages of 40 and 85 for a week. Researchers found just 10 minutes a day of modest to vigorous exercise could prevent about 110,000 deaths a year. They reported similar benefits between participants of different genders and races. And most Americans are not eating enough fruits and veggies in their daily diet. A CDC report found that only 12% of U.S. adults consume 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit daily as recommended. And just 1 in 10 of us eat the 2 to 3 cups of vegetables suggested by federal dietary guidelines. People over 50 are more likely than younger people to follow these dietary recommendations for a healthy living. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, why the FDA will pause some inspections for a couple of weeks.
And we've had a really nice Monday weather-wise for us today, but turning significantly colder. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it definitely turned out to be a good Monday for us today. Temperatures fantastic, 60s for highs, which is pretty hard to beat. Now, temperatures are going to really cool down as we go through the overnight hours. We actually had a cold front that slipped through just a few hours ago. Now, the cold air is kind of lagging behind it just a little bit, but it will make it in later on tonight. We don't have any big storm systems this week. We do have a couple weak waves that could give us some flurries Wednesday into Thursday, maybe a little bit of light snow. We're going to keep it as flurries right now. The pattern does start to really pick back up in February, which is just next week. So that's when things really get going. Of course, you can get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAMnewsnow.com. Looks good. This is Indigo Sky Casino and Resort. Pretty much clear skies. Nice shot. If you've noticed, the evening daylight hours are starting to stretch out now. It's not dark at 5:15 like it was just a month ago. It looks pretty good for us as we go through the evening hours. Temperatures still, most of us are sitting into the mid-50s to near 60 in our southern counties, but you don't have to travel too far north until you find the much colder air. Kansas City, 43, 30 in Lincoln, 14 in Des Moines. This colder air is going to start to sink south as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Look at the winds. They've kind of switched out of the northwest. It's not windy. It's breezy. And of course, when it gets cold and it's still breezy, you get the wind chill factor. So that's something we'll have to watch out for as well. 7th range line looking west, looks good, 56. North winds 10 to 15. Humidity is low at about 36%. Through the evening hours, slide through the 40s, 30s, but again, near 20 later on tonight. So it is going to be a cold night. We've had a few clouds kind of sneaking through, but besides that, we look pretty good. But you can see these clouds, and this is with the cold front. We just don't really have any moisture. We've got a weak wave passing to our south, won't affect us. Weak wave, northern parts of Montana will mainly stay to our west. That's the wave that may give us a few flurries by the time we head into the middle of the week. Until then, we look okay. It's just going to be kind of cold. All right, let's go through the overnight hours. Partly cloudy skies. Look at this colder air working in. So near 20. Partly sunny skies for us tomorrow, only near 30 by noon. And we just don't warm up that much. I think we'll get just a barely above freezing, 20 to start, 30 by noon, high temp right around 35. Northerly winds 10 to 15, so a little bit on the breezy side. Tomorrow night, still a lot of clouds stick around. We drop into the mid-teens. So a cold night, and then on Wednesday, a lot of clouds, and you can see some light snow showers trying to get in here. So a few flurries, a few light little snow showers trying to push in by the time we head into Wednesday. All right, wind chills, they're going to drop too. We're going to be 5 to 10 above by morning, and our wind chill factor stay in the 20s all day long for us tomorrow and drop back down into the single digits once again as we head into tomorrow night. We are going to start to warm things back up a little bit late this week. By the time we get toward the weekend, temperatures get back into the 50s. If you are going to head north, Kansas City, roughly 2 o'clock on Sunday, it's going to be nice. Mid to upper 40s for the NFC Championship game. All right, 35 tomorrow, 43 Wednesday, Thursday, some on and off flurries. It's colder this week, but it's not bad.
No, bouncing around a bit, but we'll take this in January. Right?
Looks good.
Thanks, Doug. It was a giant leap for NASA's newest telescope as it arrived at its final destination far, far out in space. The James Webb Space Telescope launched from South America last month. Its final destination was 1 million miles from Earth, roughly 4 times farther than the moon. Today it got there. Webb's mission is to peer into the universe's past and better understand the Big Bang. Coming up, why the IRS expects some delays this tax season. First, though, we honor a local veteran. Frank Montemurro served in the U.S. Navy from 1943 to 46. Pittsburgh native was stationed in the South Pacific. And we salute Radarman, Second Class Frank Montemuro, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, Americans can start filing their taxes today, but some people might have to wait longer than expected for their refund. Michael George reports.
Last year, Claudia Longo filed her tax return in February. When she didn't receive it in a couple of months, she called the IRS.
You would be on hold for a long time, and then maybe that call gets dropped, or they send it to a different place, and then you have to wait again.
After calling multiple times and even reaching out to her senator, Longo finally got her tax refund 5 months later in August.
I was hoping to get that money to start my daughter on orthodontist treatment, and we had to delay it.
Around 30 million taxpayers had their refunds delayed last year because of pandemic-related issues, and the IRS is still playing catch-up. The Treasury Department is warning of more delays again this year.
What are some of the reasons we might see some delays this year?
Well, first of all, if your information doesn't match on the IRS systems, they'll certainly create problems.
Mark Stieber with Jackson Hewitt says the expanded child tax credit is a potential pitfall. Most parents only got half the money they were owed. The IRS is now sending out letters to help people properly file for the rest.
And that can be a little complicated. You have to fill out the form on how many dependents you have. You may have new dependents. Shared custody can create a complication.
Stieber says unemployment benefits are taxable. Stimulus checks are not, but still need to be reported on 2021 tax returns.
So make sure you understand what is taxable and what is not taxable.
The fastest way to get a refund is to file electronically and set up direct deposit. The IRS says most people who do that get a refund within 21 days. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Tax filing deadline is April 18th. The surge in Omicron cases is forcing the FDA to put off domestic inspections through February 4th. The Food and Drug Administration says it'll still provide effective oversight of food safety, drugs, medical products, and tobacco in the interim. The FDA will use remote assessment tools and import operations surveillance instead of in-person inspections. The agency will proceed with previously planned foreign inspections, but others will be rescheduled, returning to regular operations for foreign surveillance inspections in April. More service cuts are coming to American Airlines. The carrier says it's cutting back on some of its in-flight meal and beverage service. It comes after pressure from the flight attendants union to reduce potential COVID-19 exposure. That means no second beverage cart service on all long-haul domestic flights. Meal and beverage service on international flights will be adjusted too. The changes will take effect on Wednesday. Have you been hiding your Amazon boxes? Yeah, maybe. Well, about a third of U.S. adults who are married or living with their partner admit to some sort of financial infidelity, as they call it. That's according to a new survey by creditcards.com. 15% said they spend more than their significant other would approve of, while nearly 1 in 10 said they hold some sort of secret stash or debt. Others would approve of, while nearly 1 in 10 said that they hold that secret stash or debt. Final check of the forecast is next.
Services.
Up next on the CBS Evening News, a look at a wild day for the stock market. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more on getting the most accurate results from at-home COVID tests. Plus, area students donate port pillows to cancer patients at Freeman's Cancer Institute. And we're going to have post-game comments from the Chiefs' big overtime playoff win against the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, the Chiefs won against the Bills. Maybe you heard. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Did you know that? The Chiefs won.
I did. I'm still pumped up. I've been watching coverage all day today.
Me too. Me too. The adrenaline just going through the veins.
Just got to enjoy the ride.
2 more wins to go and they're Super Bowl champs again. Okay, the weather.
Well, the ride is going downward because our temperatures are dropping for us tonight. Near 20 and only 35 tomorrow, so almost 30 degrees colder than what we did see today. Kind of a chilly week, but overall, not a bad week.
Thanks for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next. And of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.